You're listening to the Munzee Maniacs Podcast.
All right, Munzee Maniacs, welcome to episode 10 of the podcast. We've hit double digits. Wow. And this evening, we've got a very special guest, and we've got a guest co-host as well this evening. So I'm Kevin, BusanKevin on Munzee, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, PJ. Hello, PJ.
Hey.
And co-host for this evening, BatmanKai. BatmanKai, say hello.
Yay.
Yeah, and this evening we have a very, very special guest that we're very excited to have. We got a guy named Flat Rob in the house.
Hey, yeah, that's right. Hey guys, what's going on?
Wow, well, we're all excited. We're a buzz, episode 10, and we've got Rob here. So could you? I'm sure most people who are listening to this know who you are, but could you introduce yourself for us?
Well, let's see. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So Rob Vardeman, also known as Coach V in Munzee, also known as Flat Rob, also known as the CZO. You name it. I got all kinds of titles. Some of them are even nice. I've had quite a few attached to me over the last couple of years. So I am the president of Freezetag, but the president of Munzee. And let's see, it's great to be with you guys here on your 10th episode, because this is also Munzee's 10th year. So special episode and a special year. And when, you were asking for people to come on, I was like, oh, I think I might be able to time it right where that just happened to fit in. So thank you for having me on. I'm excited to actually talk to other people, so that's good.
Well, we are honored to have you. This is quite a thrill. We're saying that maybe somebody from MHQ would notice us after a year or two. So it's been quite fortunate, because we're pretty much beginners in the game, and to know that you and others have received the podcast well is a real thrill. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's all I gotta say.
No, that's all good. It's we actually, our CEO was the first one who was talking about you guys in the podcast, and I think I had seen a couple of the Munzee Maniac posts like in the Facebook groups and in the water cooler and stuff like that, but I hadn't clicked on any of it because I don't know. Sometimes I listen to podcasts, but not very often. And then so he listened, and then Dylan listened, and Dylan's like in charge of creative and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, you got to listen to it, Rob. It's good. So, so then I listened to like the first 4 in one day, and then went through the rest of them. And yeah, it was exciting. For one thing, you guys seem to know how to do podcasts as opposed to the old school stuff that Matt and I did, which was let's just see what we can do. And we set up microphones and we ran them through a soundboard. But as far as editing and making it, professional, that was not in our skill set. So to be able to join in with you guys on this is really cool.
Well, that's awesome. All Kevin. Kevin has had several podcasts over the years. We met each other through YouTube, and YouTube's a lot easier. But he moved into podcasting. So he does everything. I'm just the co-host and the recorder.
Someone's got to do it.
The whole thing is like PJ said, yeah, I've been a podcaster for years. I had a podcast about Japan, like a weekly when I did like more than 200 episodes. PJ was a frequent guest. And while I was in Japan and we were playing Munzee together, I mean, we would just have these great conversations all the time about Munzee. And we would both lament, like, why isn't anyone podcasting about this? Because I would love to hear this. And if I'm thinking that way and we're this passionate about a game that we're new to, I guarantee there's people out there who are going to want to listen to, they want Munzee content.
Yeah. Oh, you're exactly right. And, what I wrote to you guys in an email was just that listening to all of this and hearing from a couple of new or new-ish players, and then you've had you had Lisa Hollis, Mama Duck on, and I know her and have hung out with her multiple times, and she's great. And then Tony Dev, pretty sure I've hung out with him. Not 100%, because the bad thing is there are so many people that it's like picking people out of the lineup is difficult. But he's been around long enough that I've been to enough events in the UK. I'm rather certain that I have. So he did a great job, and all it's done is it's reminded me how much I miss going to events and hearing from players, talking to players. Like, it always was a big part of what we did as a team, was just kind of get out there and see what was working and hear for sure when it wasn't. And so I miss that. It's been, COVID's blocked a lot of that stuff. So this was a cool way to do it. And I've got these thoughts of like, well, what could I do? Could I do Zoom calls and chat with the pres and all that? And I'm like, I just don't know, because it would turn into the same old mic issues and things that were frustrating back in the day. So anyway, we may have to have a separate talk about things that suggestions from you on how we, company side, could engage more with people in this type of format, because just reading it online, you don't get the emotion and the feeling and all of that. It's very difficult to read and interpret things your own way. So I appreciate hearing from you guys directly. It's fun, and I haven't been able to hear from new player perspective because we haven't been able to get in front of new players, and we have a lot of new players coming in right now. So that's cool.
Which is something that I definitely want to talk about a little bit later. I've got some very, very, I've got questions about that. But you know what? One thing I want to kick off with here, because I got this guy beside me named BatmanKai, and BatmanKai is in the 5th grade, and he's podcasting at school. And he's got a question that he's been wanting to ask you, and then we can move on to some other things. But so BatmanKai, what is it that you wanted to ask Flat Rob?
How did he get involved in Munzee?
Oh, now that's a question. How long do you have? That's the real question.
That's the beauty of podcast, as long as you want.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Sure.
Oh, man. That's the other thing. Matt and I would get on and go, okay, we got 15 minutes. Let's do this one quick. And it was like 42. So, yeah, talking about Munzee is always fun, and it's very easy, and time slips away. So I'm just going to give you the version. Cut me off when you're ready. All right, BatmanKai. Seriously, that's a good question. Because my story is a little bit, it's a lot like many other people's story, but I just took a totally different path than everybody else was able to, based on my timing and where I lived. So Munzee launched in July of 2011. And in August of 2011, I was out geocaching, and was headed a little bit north of Dallas. That's where I lived, and was headed out north of where I was to sort of some country roads, and to do a power trail out there, because I was going to go ahead and get some numbers, my geocaching numbers up. And I started geocaching in 2004. So I'd been doing it for a while and still enjoyed it and that kind of stuff. But I went to find this geocache that was on a windmill, and it was on one of the metal corner posts of the windmill. But as I was looking for it, there was a tag that was like flapping in the breeze, just like a piece of paper was attached to the windmill leg. And I was like, that's weird. So looked at it, and you found me, scan me for points and QR code, Munzee. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So at that point, I had just downloaded like a QR reader the week before. So I actually scanned it with the QR reader and was like, because I wasn't even really familiar with QR codes at that point, not super familiar. And so anyway, scanned that one. And for the rest of that day, set up my account, Coach V, right then, which is based on me having been a soccer coach. And that's what the kids called me, Coach V. So I set up my account. And that day, I didn't find any more geocaches. I drove somewhere around, it was about 80 miles collectively, all around the area, capped probably 15 or 20 Munzees, and ended up with just over 100 points. So exciting day to drive 80 miles for 100 points and all that. Yeah. Nice. So then the fast forward version of the story, I then found out where the founder lived, the main founder, the president at the time, based on where the oldest Munzees were. He lived about 20 miles from me. I went into his neighborhood the next weekend. I started capping his things. He sent me a message in the app or in an email and just said, hey, you're in my neighborhood, stop by. So I did, told him how amazing the game was, said, oh my gosh, do you know what you can do with this? And then said, I'm going to work for you one day. And that was in August of 2011. And in June of 2012, because I was a teacher, he let me come on to help out with support tickets and do some business development type stuff with him because I was a teacher during the summer. Then in January of 2013, I convinced him that I should quit my full-time teaching job and take on Munzee full-time. I was the first full-time employee. And then in October of 2013, I said, how about if I just take over? And I did. So that's how it goes. So BatmanKai, you start playing a game, you start asking questions, you start looking around. You never know. You have ideas, you just work your way through and keep putting your ideas out there. You never know what might happen. So that's my story. Started with geocaching, made it to the top of Munzee. How does that happen? Weird.
That's cool though. I never knew that. So that's it. That's good question, BatmanKai.
Yeah, there's a lot of history type stuff there that people just assume, I started the game or whatever. But no, there were 4 co-founders, and then I came along as number 5, and then that's where we went from there. So, how that answer your question? Okay, you got any follow-up questions for me?
Any other questions, Kai?
Yeah, the question.
If you don't, that's cool.
If you think of another question, I put you under pressure. Sorry about that. If you think of any other questions, you feel free, because I'm more than happy to do it. And people that have met me and hung out with me at events and everything like that know that because I was a teacher, I always enjoyed hanging out with, a few kids, finding out why the kids are there. Like, did your parents drag you along, or do you actually enjoy playing Munzee? And what do you like? What else could we do? Because having kids involved is a good thing for the game.
Kai is a hardcore fan. He is on many occasions tried to trip me or make me an old man stumble so he could get to the Munzee first, for no other reason than bragging rights.
That together is it's a hoot. It's like watching 2 10-year-olds trying to be the first to cap, and I just stand back and laugh, take photos.
It's all about the points, and if you can't get there first, then too bad for you. So.
Yeah. So, the one thing that we've talked about on a few past episodes was, during the first wave, when we were, all 3 of us were in Japan, there wasn't a lot to do, and there wasn't much we felt safe doing. But Munzee was something that we had something to do, and not just something to do, but something that got us out and moving. So it's good for your health. It's something to do, something to look forward to. And it was just great to do with, for example, so Kai was out of school in another country. He wasn't around other kids. So that social part wasn't there, but he got to hang out with PJ and me and get out and do things. Mm-hmm. So it was a real blessing for us for PJ to introduce me and Kai to the game when he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely. Which kind of leads me. Oh, sorry, PJ, go ahead.
No. You might be asking the same question. So I just wanted to ask Rob, I know how the pandemic has affected our play. In fact, it's encouraged it in a way because it's the one kind of healthy, safe outlet that we can do. I'm wondering, in other parts of the world, are you seeing the numbers pick up? Are more people playing? Are less people playing because of the pandemic? I know it's kind of a broad question, but what do you feel? How has the pandemic changed the game?
Well, it's good to hear what you said, that this has given you something to do, that this, Kevin and Kai, just like a family type thing that you can go and do. And when the three of you were together in Japan, just like, it's something. It's the recreation, the exercise that was allowed by most governments. We've had it. It's been very interesting for us because the world is a big place, it turns out, and every government doesn't do the same thing. What? So to have a game that is played by people in New Zealand that kicked the virus out and didn't let it come back, and then they had one, so they shut the whole place down again, and then it was gone. And like Lou's sister lives down there, so we get updates about how things are going, and they are having issues too, but their issues are that they can't leave the island and that they can't, no one else can come in. So her family's not been able to go down there. But as far as mobility inside the country, they're fine. Australia has gone through multiple waves, and every part of Australia is completely different. And so even though it might have been locked down in Melbourne, that didn't mean that 2 hours north in Shepsey, things weren't locked down, or over in Sydney or out in Perth where we've got big player bases. Then you go through Europe and every place was completely different. The last event that I went to was a Beethoven event in Germany, and it was on Leap Day, so February 29th. And I was there, and it was a big, mega Giga event. It was a Giga event for geocaching. Wow. And they had a Munzee event attached to it. And was there and left that place very quickly when they had announced, like, there's been a case here in Bonn. And it was just like everybody just kind of spread, went home. And I went back home and bunkered down. That's all that everybody was doing. So what we were concerned about as a company was, like, were people still going to be out and about, able to play? And we were very pleasantly surprised, over the first, like, from March to May, to see the numbers grow, like more players coming on. We were having people reaching out to us and saying that they had found us because they were walking, saw a QR code, or someone had introduced them, and that this was their daily exercise. This was the one thing that, they could look forward to, what new thing, or, finding something, going somewhere the next day. So we've been pleasantly surprised and in the end positively impacted as far as number of players and that kind of thing over the year.
Nice.
Nice to have a little good news from the pandemic,
I know we certainly didn't think that back, in March of 2020. We left the office the middle of March, and with like okay, we'll go home, we'll decide in April what we're going to do, and none of us have been back to the office since then, like individually, but we've never come back together as a team since March, which is wild, especially for a team that, we only ever worked in person. We had a Texas office and a California office, and now we're a worldwide team that all work together. So it's brought our team closer together, even though none of us are in the same offices. And then as far as the players go, it has caused what you guys have experienced, which is everyone interacts online even more than they did before because everyone's not able to get to the events. So if anyone posts a need, like in any of the Facebook groups, then it's like, oh, let me deploy for you, because people are looking for reasons to deploy. So they'll put them around you because they can get cap on points or whatever it may be. So we've definitely seen more positives than negatives from this game. It's weird,
but a good weird.
One thing that I've found that's so amazing about it is since starting the podcast, because before the podcast, there was myself and PJ and BatmanKai and a few other players that we know in Japan. And, we had our Munzee in Asia Facebook group, and we would, chit chat about things and share pictures and stuff. But now that, we've got this podcast going, it's incredible how global this is. And, like when I put out an episode, we put out an episode, and all of a sudden I wake up the next morning and there's more Munzees around my neighborhood or in the town, and people just saying thank you in the Munzee. And it's just, for me growing a new place, that's obviously fantastic, but it's more than that. It's special. And I've seen, like, for example, when I'm on those Munzee Facebook groups, people who've said, like, I tested positive for COVID. I'm at home. I can't leave my house. And people saying, oh, send me your coordinates. I'm going to deploy. And that's just incredible. And I mean, the community, the kindness, the warmth, I mean, that's something that I'm discovering now. And I love it. That's one thing and that's going to motivate us to just keep this podcast going and growing and getting better,
Absolutely. We need that. We actually need, your podcast at this moment in time. You guys have come along at just the right moment. I think earlier in the year, I don't know what might have happened with it. But right now there is definitely a need for continued connection and to be able to talk and hear about all these things. And I sit, listening to those episodes and just kind of like taking mental notes of, oh yeah, that's really great. And so for me,
is that you, Kevin?
That's me.
Oh, good.
Sorry, Rob, you were saying.
No. I paused knowing that would get edited anyway, or assumed it might. But yeah. I was like, what was I saying? Because that's the unfortunate.
You were listening to, what was it? Podcast with Tony and Lisa and others, and
yeah. So listening to those podcasts and just hearing their stories and knowing that other people are hearing that, and it brings things to mind, that you do. And like when those posts pop up in the water cooler and there's coordinates for here's where my house is, or any of that kind of thing, or nearby. By the way, people, don't post your coordinates to your house, post some nearby. Just a
wisdom.
Friendly. Yeah, in case you're new, please don't give us the coordinates directly to your house. Although some people put their Skylands on their porch. You don't have to. It's 1,000 feet radius. Anyway, or your holiday mailbox, those sort of things. So if you click on those links thinking, oh, I'll help out because, maybe only a couple of people. No, there's 20, 30. 50. It's pretty awesome to see the way that people respond, and they respond quickly. So
yes, very quickly. I was telling Kevin, I've had to become a master of using filters because there have been so many placed in my neighborhood that I can't see anything, and it's a blessing and a curse. It's a curse I'm happy to have, but it just goes to show you that people go, oh, I like this, thank you, or like you said, on water cooler, some people saying they can't get out of their house, or a relative passed and they're a little bit blue, so somebody makes a garden for them. Or we just had a garden made in Japan by the owners of, Space
Coast.
Yeah,
Space Coast Geostore.
A friend of ours, Sarah, who's been on the podcast before, just saying, we want to know how these work.
Yeah. She didn't ask for one.
Nope.
She wasn't like, can someone make a garden? She just said, can someone tell me how to make one? And then
boom. And just everyone wants to help out.
We've been having conversations about Japan Asia in general, as far as on the Munzee front, and I work with Dale and Barb. They're great, and so I work with Dale on the back end on those gardens. So we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and Dale was not part of the meeting, but it was as if he was, because about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, up pops up for me one of our to-dos. We use Basecamp, but I had a to-do, and it was this garden in Japan. And I was like, I sent him a message, and I just said, "Oh my gosh, you have no idea. We've been talking about this, and this is perfect. This is perfect timing. This is exactly what we need to do. So I don't know how you picked it, but this is great." So for that one to have gone out there and it was filled quickly, it was great. And so he and I talk quite a bit. Talk with Barb, but I talk gardens with Dale, and he's really good, and he's really figured out how to make gardens that are the right size so that they fill quickly. And if you do it right, then you can have a garden, and then you can put out another garden a mile, 2 miles, or however far away, so that you've got lots of options. And people will do that, and they will fill it because it fills very quickly, as opposed to here's a 3,000 pin garden that's going to take 3 years to fill. And the original gardens, that's how they were. Everyone had the coolest design ever, but no one could get all their gardens filled. So filling gardens, quick, small ones, excellent. And there are a couple of good garden builder tools out there. I borrowed Dale's candy cane garden design and tweaked it just a little bit. And then I started using them during December to deploy the ones for events. So I've learned a little bit about it. But yeah, he's got that kind of thing down, which is fun.
Nice.
Very impressive. And it was so nice to see. I literally was there one morning. It was deployed overnight for us here in Japan. I was the first to cap by chance. I was going to that to the next city anyway to deploy. My hobby for me is to pick an area that's underrepresented and find a park or a museum and kind of build on it. And I was going there anyway. And I just, Sarah says, "Have you seen this yet?" It was early in the morning, and it's a cute little gnome. It's so topical with what's going on right now anyway. The only sad part of gardens is once you get it all, it's all red, and you lose a little bit of the. You got to take a picture before you start.
Well, the thing is that PJ and I have had this conversation many times. Because of COVID, because of the pandemic, borders are closed. And Japan. I mean, in a regular year before this happened, tourism was booming through the roof. It was insane. And people from all over the world want to go to a place like Japan. I'm in Shenzhen, across the bay from Hong Kong. And although not a big tourist hub, it is a business hub. And there are thousands upon thousands of business travelers from Europe and North America who come there every year. And I know that some of them play Munzee. Yeah. But when they came to Shenzhen, they would have opened up that Munzee app and saw 2 virtuals, and I think 5 or 6 physicals in a city of 14 million. And they would have gone, oh, well, let's turn that app off. And, and maybe they would have deployed one, maybe. And the same was with Japan. When PJ introduced me to the game in Osaka, PJ had already deployed quite a few, but aside from PJ, there was basically almost nothing there. But now, if a Munzee player, when the world simmers down and calms down, when people are hopping on that summer holiday to go to Osaka Castle Park or go to Kyoto, they're going to be they're going to open up that app and say, "Whoa!"
Well, I don't know if you remember this, Kevin, but when I first, because he came and we like you, we played geocaching as well, and so when he couldn't do it in China, so we wanted to do it when he came back, and I was deploying for Munzee while we were doing geocaching, and he downloaded it and capped it for me, but he was going, okay, whatever. It's just another one. But then I created this, I think it was the Utsubo Park. I don't know, but I went to this place. It used to be a runway in World War II. And so they never built on the area. It's down right in the middle of the city, geographic center of Osaka. It's this beautiful park, 2 or 3 kilometers long, but just runway thin. And so I would just deploy up and down, all by myself. And I knew Kevin was hooked on the day without telling me. I started getting these notices, pop, 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 pop. And then he was hooked. And now he's far crazier than I am.
Oh, I'm not. No way. You're far crazier than
And I credit it to that baseball movie. What is it? Field of Dreams. Build it and they will come.
If you build it, they will come. And that is exactly right. And those types of posts happen all the time on the Munzee water cooler. Yeah. All the time. If you don't have Munzees around you, you put them out. And when the world reopens, everyone's going to show up. And that's happening right now. I just jumped back into the Munzee GB group. They're talking about it, and there's a group of players in, I don't even know which part of the country because I can't learn any of that stuff yet. I wasn't taught British geography, but it's over toward Norwich. So I told them the other day, like, I'm excited about the areas that they are growing. I've never been to that area of England. And when we're able to leave our lockdown area, which, we've been told at least another month, basically, there's going to be these really great areas across a lot of parts of the world where players can come from other areas and start capping. So now it is interesting during lockdown, but now if you are, and you're able to go in some area around where you live legally, then now's the time for you to build like a little base layer so that when people can come, they will come and get your points, and you can return the favor by going and getting theirs. And then when you guys are in those areas, what you have both talked about, well, then when you're capping, then put some out there for the person who built that area, and they'll do the same for you. It's this reciprocal relationship that works really well in Munzee that isn't allowed in geocaching because you have to be local to where you hide your geocaches so that you can do the maintenance, where we've got something else built in for that. So that's one of the things that as we built this up made sense as a key difference, I think.
It really does perk me up. I mean, I love geocaching. I'm not knocking it at all, but
no, me either.
But I found two problems. I got everything in my area, so it's become now a tourism game. When I travel, if I travel again, I will play. But another thing, like you said, I can't deploy where I am not able to maintain a cache. But Munzee's so nice. I ran into an Australian guy, and he doesn't use smartphones. But we were talking, and I thought, I'll deploy one in Sydney. And I picked a Japanese garden outside, just outside the city center. And then, because I was trying to show him how it worked, that I could deploy remotely, and we did this and what have you. I put a virtual, and it gets capped not often because, again, they're being really strict in Sydney, but it gets capped once or twice a week. And it's just like it's a warning. It's an alert to me. It's wake up. There are people in the world. And I like that in a time that we feel so connected, but so lonely at the same time, it's meaningful to say someone capped this, and I even write, thank you, Osaka, or whatever. And I'm going, wow, that's another person in the world that's doing okay. And I like that again, this is a game that it never gets tired locally because there's bouncers. I can play from my apartment. And today it's been raining all day. I couldn't get out at all. I'm still playing, but I'm playing from home. And then other days I get out and go. And I love that versatility that's missing from a lot of the GPS location games. Some have it, some don't. But Munzee's got it in spades. And there's something for everybody in the game. And I love that.
I love badges, souvenirs, icons, whatever you want to call them. I play games for those things. And that's what I do for geocaching now. I'm the guy, as the president of Munzee, who shows up at a Munzee event in a new country, in a new state, in a new area, and says, let's go find a geocache, because I need to have the souvenir, like in the different portions of Germany and new countries and all that kind of stuff. So assuming one of these days I get to come over to Asia, to Japan, to China, to everywhere, gonna go and get a geocache. It's important stuff because I need to be able to check that one off of the list. And I do the same thing. Like, don't know if you've ever heard of Poznan, Poland. My guess is no. Neither had I. Louise had a bike race there. I looked up the map before we went and was like, oh, look, there's a few things around. So we went to her bike race. She does her 4-hour race. And while she's doing that, I'm scooting around on an electric scooter, deploying Munzees. And same thing, those get capped now. I dropped a bunch of POIs as well, and those get capped. And as they do, it takes me back to that time when we were in Poznan, Poland, which again was like, where? And now I know where it is and I remember it. And it generates, I don't know, it just revives those memories, I guess. It's fun.
I got to say, I'm a big badge person too. And souvenirs and geocaching as well. I don't know why, but because it's not real. It's a virtual picture, but I feel satisfied when I've got the next one. I'm going for my 365 deploy and cap, and I'm at 280, 260, I forget. But I have 2 alarms that go off before MHQ day ends just to make sure I don't miss a day. Because water cooler people have warned me, you're going to have a bad day. You're going to forget. And I have 2 alarms that go off, one an hour before the end of the day and one 30 minutes. And it's because I want that badge.
Yeah, no, I mean, I myself, I'm not going to get that year badge this year. That's for sure. Cause I've forgotten some days, but I would get so excited when I get like the month run, I'd get a full month and I'd be like, yeah, I did it. Deploy and, cap, every day this month. But again, I like those badges too, but I don't want to say I'm not as dedicated as you, PJ. I may be more forgetful.
They're very difficult to get. I don't have the 365-day deploy badge, and I just earned the 365-day capture badge back in December for the first time.
Wow.
And yeah, I've been doing this for a while. And
heard it here first, folks.
Right. Honestly, I haven't ever said that to everyone because it's like, why wouldn't you be playing every day? And it just didn't work out that way. But I'm on like day maybe 340 or something on deploys. Oh, wow. So I'm almost there. And same thing. Now I'm to the point where I understand the paranoia that people have of like, I've got to do it. So I'm like waking up, laying in bed, like deploying a virtual somewhere around here.
Shaking violently.
Right. Just to be sure that for that day, I don't mess up. And I mean, I'm sitting at my computer working on Munzee every day and I still can't think to deploy a Munzee. So I feel your pain to those of you who still don't have those badges. I totally get it. But guess what? We're still going to keep the badges in there because it does motivate everyone.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
These new daily Z-Ops have helped me personally, I know. And that was something that we've worked on for a while, was getting that into the app. So we were all very excited when daily Z-Ops and just when we could push more stuff into the app so that it is easier, so that those people who are new to the game, it's right there in front of you and it gives you, here's your mission for the day. Cool. And so even if you only do one thing, there it is.
And that's a great thing too, like especially like for newer players, getting into the game, you have with that daily Z-Ops. When I started playing that, I loved it. I mean, I love the rewards. I love getting the night vision goggles and like free virtuals and free physicals. That was so fantastic. And one of my colleagues who I introduced to the game, who was a real quick study, within a few days of introducing him to the game, and I don't even think I showed him what Z-Ops was. Boom, there was a pair of night vision goggles somewhere in Shenzhen. I was like, oh, sweet. And I think we've talked about this on a previous episode, PJ, I discovered some of the pitfalls of living in China where everyone lives in secured compounds. So there's a night vision goggles, but those bouncers, those little virtual ones get thrown out. And I'm like, I can't cap it. It's in the middle of a walled compound, and I don't have access to it. Tear drips.
Exactly. And,
you know, especially with the laser pointer. When you start getting up, like,
Oh, yeah.
I got the first one. I got the second one. No. Oh, tear.
I'm in the same camp as far as hating scatters. I love-hate relationship. I love scatters, but I am a lazy scatter chaser. I am not interested in chasing a scatter here in England. People walk, and that confuses me because in Texas, if I had a scatter that went 2,000 feet, I would get in my truck and I would drive over to within 500 feet, and then I would drive back to my house. Actually, I would go and drive and pick up a bunch of other bouncers, but I certainly wouldn't walk. So yeah, here I'll go out and that laser scatter will go, and it's, of course, I've just come back from the shops or whatever, and it's back the opposite direction. So I got to walk back that way. I cap that one, and then the other one goes another 500 feet past where I was, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine, I'll do it. Get that one, and then it bounces like 3,000 feet. And I'm like, nope, going home. Forget it. Not gonna do it. So I feel everyone's. We're coming up with. Oh, I think it bounced. We're working on something to ease some of our pain. Just so you guys know. So this is one of those things where I hear ya. And I, as a player, feel your pain, experience your pain, and want to do something to help all of us.
Well, it's great. It's great to have a MHQ team member in a walking country now.
Walking countries.
We understand. Yeah, well, I get it. And don't get me wrong. I've learned I'm trying to get a little maturity in my old age, and I'm learning to leave points on the board. If it's something I can't get, I'm going to let it go. But it's funny, I'm a bouncer hound and I love them. I've got 4 tree houses surrounding me. And on a cold winter day, when the last one says it's an Aphrodite or what is it? Yeah. And I'm going, oh, okay, I still got to go get it. And it's cold and I'm walking and I finally, last night my feet were wet because there's a little hole in the bottom of my shoe. And I said, no. It's only 50 points. It's across the bridge. I am not. It's going to be at least 20 minutes. Walk home, PJ. Let it go. But it's hard.
Mm-hmm. It is difficult, but it's good that you're mature enough to make the right choice.
And it's pretty rare for someone to accuse PJ of being mature. Hey, so wait a second. You've mentioned this a few times. You're in the UK right now. You're not in McKinney, Texas. What's
going on?
What's going on there?
People used to track my movements very well and very closely. Oh yeah. I would get messages from like, hey, you're in my general area. You should cap all of these and that kind of thing. Whether I was traveling to events or whatever. Right. Well, that's the nice part. I mean, you can see on people's feed, or if they had virtuals out and I capped them or I blasted them or whatever at the airport. Oh, you just landed in Minneapolis. That's awesome. I hope you're coming to the events, or any of those kinds of things. So it was a lot of fun. So since I haven't been moving around a lot, people just don't know exactly, where's he at? So, I came over here in July, and then I've had to bounce back home to reset my visa several times. But yeah, I've been here in the UK since December 23rd. So spent Christmas here with Louise and hanging out here with her and her boys while they're doing their homeschool distance learning stuff. And we've got the house set up where there's sort of a little office area for us to hang, and then games and stuff like that as well. But yeah, I'm in the process of making the move because people who were around, we put out the She Said Yes bouncers now a year and a half ago. And so yeah, I proposed to her at the end of her doing the entire Tour de France route the day before the men in 2019. So when we
saw
finished
that video, that was great.
I was the driver. She cycled the entire thing, 3,000 miles and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I proposed to her. And so it was a fun moment. And so now here we are a year and a half later, still pending that marriage. And so for those who are curious, yes, still engaged, and yes, still planning on being married, but haven't done that yet. And so my residential status is still pending for the UK, but it's in progress.
Well, knock on wood, everything will go well. Yeah, the video lagged, but the voice was perfect.
Yeah.
We didn't lose anything.
Nice. Wow.
Okay.
Congratulations. And, that's awesome. And there you are in that different part of the world. And like you said, you're learning things now from the perspective of players in different parts of the world, a lot of European players, what they experience. Myself and PJ, I was in Japan for 10 years. PJ's been there a lot longer than that. And I mean, most of us who are there, a lot of people don't have cars just because it's more convenient to take public transportation. And I just, you find yourself walking places. It's great that now you are getting a perspective of a different type of player, because I know that players who are in America, players who are in Canada, like where I'm from, when I was living in Canada, I had a car and I drove everywhere. It's a driving culture. Well, it's not even because you have to. It's just everything's really far away. But once I landed in Asia, I became a walker. And then again, like I said, even now I have an e-bike, and I zip around my neighborhood at a whopping 32 kilometers an hour going downhill if the wind's at my back. And then that battery only really gets me I get about 10 kilometers out of that battery. So, it's a different perspective, I guess, you're getting now. So that's cool that you have that.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. A worldview that I didn't realize I didn't have, but I do now.
Well, it's a world game. So it's very helpful to have the head have experienced a different type of play. So it can only be good for all of us.
Nice.
I think so. With some stuff that we have coming out, I think so. Yeah.
Cool.
While we're on that stuff coming out, let me ask you this question if I can. What was it, 2016, 2017, and you guys joined Freezetag.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you still kept Munzee has its own unique flavor. And I'm wondering, was that difficult to balance? You're joining a larger organization and you want it to work, but yet still retain the soul of the game. I think it has, but was that difficult? And going forward, is that an issue for you?
It is not as difficult as everyone might make it out to be on social media. The conversations that we had going into our merger were centered a lot around Munzee. And I've never talked about this stuff, just so you guys know. So we talked a lot about Munzee because Munzee was like the main component between the two companies. And we had things that we wanted to be able to do together, knowing that they had some strengths that we didn't have. And then we had some like game strengths and gaming core. And so Munzee, like before everything happened, it was like, just so we're clear, like Munzee is mine. And everyone's like, yeah, absolutely. Why would any of that change? So we came together as a team. Everyone worked hard together. There were a lot of things that were like Texas does Munzee and California does, this and this, and then we cross some things over, but that's what we've really figured out over the last year in particular is that there's not a Texas office and a California office. Like we're one team now, and we work together on all of the things. Specifically, Mari and Tamara from California have transferred in fully into a gameplay team that we have. So we have a gameplay meeting every single week, and we talk about what's coming up, and we talk about things that we need to change, and what are we going to be doing bouncer wise, and all those things. We plan out further in advance than we ever have before. And planning in advance meant like no Friday if it was Monday, back in the early Munzee days. And we work really well together as a team. And because we joined together, it meant that we had more people and more resources so that we could work on multiple games, as opposed to stretching 4 people to cover, everything. So like right now, we've got a team that's working on Eventsy that is focusing on like some out there in the world scavenger hunts, business related, where we also have a big chunk of the team that is focused on Munzee and how do we give people something to do every single day, and how do we keep clan wars going. And so clan wars has always been, one of those things that was like mine. It was actually the last thing that the former president, Aaron, it was his driving force. And so he launched that the month that I took over as his final deal. And so I've always sort of owned it and grown it into where it is now, which gets a bit crazy. But as of now, we're a much stronger team than we were 2-3 years ago when we merged, and even a year ago this same time, we were just starting to get a gameplay team going, and we've grown that gameplay team to I believe there's 6 of us now instead of 3 of us in the Texas office making all the decisions. So it's much better.
Well, it definitely seems like a very responsive game these days. I mean, and things are always changing, and I like that. It makes it fresh. But I remember playing, because I started in 2015. Well, I originally had an account in 2013, but I lost that account. 2015, I started again. My brother said, no, you got to try it again. And I've been ever since. But I remember when the merger happened, I thought I was very worried, are we going to lose it? But I actually think it's made it stronger, like you said. And I'm just looking forward to, like the Christmas things you guys did with the mailbox, and that must have been crazy work on your guys' side. But let me tell you, that was fun because every day there was something.
Yeah, that was a fun month.
Responsive. You're right there, because we do monitor like people's not thoughts. That would have been weird. We don't monitor people's thoughts. We monitor like the reactions. That happens
where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Don't say that, Kevin.
Yeah, it does. Right. Whoops. So we definitely we're interactive, or at least we try to be. And so this is part of that and trying to get back into it. But the holiday mailbox for December, that evolved during the month. Like we had a plan and we left for Thanksgiving with the plan set. And the goal was like, so that we don't all have to work on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, let's make sure that we're done before Thanksgiving. So we were, and it was all locked in and good to go. And then one of the first badges that had all the shadow characters came out. And when that came out and everyone was like, oh my gosh, look at those shadow characters. Those are going to be awesome. Do you think they're coming? We went, oh man, we have to do that now. So Crampbot and all the rest of those were born during the month of December. What?
Really?
And because of that, we came back on January 4th going, oh no, what are we going to do? Because we spent the time leading up to Christmas putting out all of the things, Frosty and those things. They were all programmed and ready, but we only had the Cybersource Rex, Cyborg Santa, and the Ginger Mech Man. Those were the only 3. That's all that was going to happen. And because Dylan does such amazing art stuff, he should not have made such cool shadow characters on that first punch card badge. So we did that. The other thing is we had some of those scatters, the first scatters, the snowballs that went out. Well, that turned out to be a bad one. On the server side and the chasing side. So we were responsive to needs on that one, and so happy that it worked out. we are going to take that idea, and it's coming again soon.
Oh,
you heard it here first.
Excellent, because that's good stuff.
You heard it here first, folks. There you go. I'll just keep saying. We're getting the scoop.
This is one of the things, whenever I'd go on podcasts, I always would come with something that was like, okay, here's a little piece of information for you. And yeah, you've heard a couple of first things here. But we as a team really enjoyed that. That was a big like team bonding project where we had input from a lot of us, and a big mega spreadsheet that I hate stuff like that. And so everybody, it's all color coded, it's everywhere, and everything's all laid out, and it worked perfectly. And just had to go through and check all the boxes. And you know, there were a few oopses, snafus, things that didn't go exactly right, but the Munzee community is patient, and some say that Munzee teaches patience. My apologies for that, because sometimes it definitely does. I also have to be patient as president with how quickly I want ideas to come to the game, but also when little things happen, like getting those fixed. And so yes, we all have to be patient in our lives sometimes, and Munzee is just a really good teacher of that. Life
lesson there. But it was a big thing. Christmas is, for me, I'm an expat and I live in Japan. I tend to go home and visit my nieces. They're little girls, and Christmas is a big event, and I couldn't do that. So to have, in a way, this really, I'm not saying it's a lifesaver, let's not overblow it, but it really did kind of add a little bit of dose of cheer every day, because you didn't know whether it was just going to be a card or it was going to be a big thing. And after that first snowball, I learned very quickly, don't cap it until you're ready to go. And I'd get all ready and I'd see, and you'd go to the water cooler and see what people are talking about. It was again, a very helpful, positive distraction in an otherwise, difficult time. So thank you. I thought it worked. Yeah. Again, even with the crazy deploy of the original snowballs, it still was fun.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed it too, but here, like, we live outside London here, and it's countryside around us a lot. And I had at least half of mine that there was no chance I was going to be able to reach them. So again, I'm feeling the same pain. Yep. And so whatever rules I'm putting in place, they're happening to me too. And that's why we fixed that with some of the future ones. And that's also why when we started having conversations about Frosty, it was like, let's bring the snowball back for those people who weren't able to cap all 50 of theirs or 25 of theirs. Let's give them another opportunity to get those snowballs and to earn those badges. What? It's like we learned. So we truly do try. We are certainly never going to meet every need that's out there. Sure. But we try. We try to hear from people, and we try to make things as fun as possible. I don't want to be predictable, and I don't like doing boring things. So we are going to continue to change. We are going to keep it fresh, and if it starts to get stale, we will hear that from people, and the craziest things you've ever seen will happen shortly after that. So we've got stuff that we've talked about for years that we're actually making moves on now. I am excited about the team being together over distance to build cool stuff that has been in the pipeline for way too long. So it's going to be a good year. Last year was good in the weirdest way possible. When we didn't think it could be. So we've learned from that, and we're going to take it. We're going to take it even further in our 10th year. So,
well, that's exciting. That's exciting.
It is exciting, and it's really great. I mean, and we're so happy you came on the. You wanted to come on the podcast and share this with all those listeners out there, Munzee players around the world, with us, and we're so happy that, again, like, how many months ago was it, PJ? We're walking down the road somewhere, and I'm like, we need to make a podcast. And, and then you're just like, Kevin, as long as you're doing all that tech side stuff. I'm happy to meet up and talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
And PJ knows how much
I talk. That's what I do.
Yeah, and PJ knows how much I love doing the tech side of things and how much I love the kind of online marketing of things. And I've always been a Twitter fiend, and I've always been, all that stuff. So, and community building, whether it was back in the day when we were YouTube vloggers or whatever it was, PJ and I used to always organize YouTube meetups in Japan, and we'd have picnics and meet at bars and get YouTubers together and build community. We'd always try to lift each other up and help smaller channel creators and build their channels. I think that was one of the most fun aspects of when we were both active YouTubers. As a podcaster, that was always fun for me. And now that I'm part of this Munzee community, which I'm, pretty new to, it's just awesome to be able to share you right now, Rob, what you're saying, all these amazing, cool things that we're learning about with other people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Having a platform to talk to everyone is important. And I haven't, it's been difficult to, turn the corner and get back into that, honestly. So maybe this will springboard me back in, because the last live video that I did on Munzee was in May at the office, as they did the flyby Blue Eagles to Angels. I was like, is it? Yeah, Blue Angels. There it is. But to honor all the healthcare workers and all that. So thanks for that. Now I want to ask you guys a question. Because you're both based in Asia and you're trying to grow the game there. What can we, Munzee, MHQ, whatever you want to call us, what can I do to help you?
We got a laundry list, but Kevin, you go first.
Hey, I'm asking, so.
That's a tough one for me. I'm going to be honest. I saw that mentioned on Facebook, in our private chat back and forth. And I was just kind of like, wow, it just at the moment where I'm at, it's just such a new thing. For me, the challenge is to try to introduce new people to it. And I think right now that's kind of an organic thing. I'm trying to introduce it to my colleagues, I don't know, PJ, I'm just going to throw that back to you, man.
Okay. Well, I got one right away. And this is one probably you can't do anything about, because I think it's probably an economic thing. The map, the open street. I think you guys use OpenStreet or something like that. I'm not sure, but the issue is in a commuter society where you're taking trains and subway and the like. The current map system de-emphasizes the train and subway lines. So it's really hard to see. I have to use the app in coordination with Google Maps or Apple Maps, and I use both. And that works. It's workable. It's certainly workable. But my issue is that sometimes when I'm planning where to go or where to deploy, I need to see where the station is, so how to get there and how realistic it is. That's my one problem, is the map itself is not. It's very North American centered, where the roads are super featured, but things like the trains and the subways it's a light gray line on the app. It's better. Let me change that. It's better on the app than the website, but you still have to zoom in so close that you can't. I'm going, where is it next to is it next to can I get there? Is it doable?
Right.
That's my issue for, I think, places like Asia or parts of Europe where you're not car centered. Beyond that, I can't say. I think what I like about the way you've designed it is you can do what you want. So if you care about points, you go out there and just get as many points as you need, and you don't care about something else. You care about clan wars. You care about Z-Ops. My brother plays, and he doesn't care. I don't know if he even listens to this podcast, but he doesn't care about points at all. For him, it's getting out with the nieces, his daughters and not the nieces, and going to a park or, making a half day out of something. And he's not competitive at all. He doesn't really care about how many points he's got. And that's the beauty of the free to play or freemium model, is that you can get out of it what you want if you're willing to put time and energy and money and whatever. Focus. For me, it's mostly focus. And I can do that. And my only other issue would be clan wars. And that would be, you guys are both laughing at me, but the podcast listeners can't hear this, but they ask, so I'm talking. My other issue would be clan wars. The Z crew is hard to do in young map areas.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've heard that already.
So I've heard, yes, and read.
I've read a lot.
Yeah. By the way, our suggestions email does get read. It doesn't get responded to all the time, but it does get read. So yes, I've heard, and support tickets and all those kinds of things. And I've read it in the water cooler the same way. We're always trying to come up with different ways to accomplish goals or objectives that we've got. And so that's why it's evolved several times. And those new sleep Z's that we threw out there was to try and remove a bit of the pain. However, I know that in new areas, it still is an issue. Even if, there are old virtuals that were put out in hard to reach places or airports or things like that just might not be as easy to get to anyway. So I hear what you're saying. I don't have that struggle personally because not many people play in this immediate area. I do participate in the clan wars in order to try and experience as much of the pain as possible. We've got an MHQ clan that I don't play in theirs because I play harder than they do, except actually it's a challenge. I'm a single person clan and there's 5 of them. And so we compete to see who can get the higher level usually. Wow. I get way more cap on points than they do from my years. So it helps me there. But we participate in all of those things and do Z-ops in order to just to feel it all. So on the maps, we use Apple Maps in the app. And we've gone back and forth between maps multiple times trying to find the right solution. And it is a difficult thing for us no matter what. We've still not found the right fit for everyone. And we are experiencing issues currently where weird little squares of different places around the world pop up. It's very odd. Yeah, I don't have any idea where the one is that pops up here in my area. I'm not sure, but I get it every now and then. So it is something that we're also looking into. But anyone who's sent in support tickets knows that we know and we're looking. So that's good to know. I'm glad to know that there's not any major stumbling block that you're experiencing. That we
no, actually,
yeah.
One thing, and I've talked to PJ about this. That I've been very thankful for with the Munzee app is that it works here in China, whereas in the geocaching app doesn't work. There's this offset. So if I've got a premium geocaching account, if I run it, man, it's way off. Shenzhen, it's a city where there's ocean and then a mountain that's about 2 kilometers away, but like geocaches that I know by reading the description and everything about it are located right by the ocean are up in the mountain. If I use I learned today the new trail, the kind of trail feature with offline maps that actually shows a pretty accurate, location for the geocache, but your location is way off. Yeah. So you can figure it out by sleuthing, but Munzee is dead on.
Yeah.
And that's perfect. And I don't know why that is, but I'm so happy. You know what? I did think of something while PJ was talking. And the only thing, I would love to see, as far as community building, just more interaction on social media. I mean, I know you guys post a lot of stuff, but for example, all summer, like again, me being like the big community builder, I love like posting things on Twitter, like using the hashtag Munzee or mentioning Munzee, and kind of like, why am I not getting retweeted? Why am I not getting liked? I'm pushing the game. I'm making YouTube videos about me and my son playing the game, and I share it on Twitter, hashtag Munzee, @Munzee, but I'm not getting retweeted. I'm not getting this or that. Whereas that's a big thing that is when I think of like other podcasts I had an education podcast called the Making Better Teachers podcast, and the who's who of the teaching community. If I would put out an episode and maybe that I had someone as a guest or a few people as guests, they would push because we're all building each other. So I'd like to see, some more activity of just sharing, pushing things, lifting each other up, and from the MHQ end of things would be cool.
That's nice. That's a good old 2x4 right across the face, because totally makes sense what you're saying. No. But that's the thing, in a really nice way, like a rubber one. So so it's okay because what we don't have is like a social media manager. There's like three of us. Right. There's three of us that are part of like content creation. And so we kind of tag team it, but we don't necessarily actively look at and monitor outside Facebook. And even then it's mainly just our stuff. And that totally makes sense. And I can see how, that would help all of us out, us, you, everything. So I think we're video. So I'm pretty sure you saw a light bulb turn on there above my head, because I've no one's ever suggested that in all my conversations. It's never been something that someone said, hey, it would be kind of cool if you did this. And like I do that on a personal side with other things, but I don't. I've just never taken that step on the Munzee side. So I feel like that's an easy thing. Dylan, you hearing this? We could definitely put some focus on, and it fits in with some conversations that we've been having on our end about social media and some additional focus there. But that hadn't come up as a conversation, but that's good. I can tell you this, we will be sharing this podcast.
Nice.
So
that.
Your listenership, it might expand to Poznan, Poland. It might expand to who knows where. So I hope so.
Find that.
Yeah, I hope so. And
I gotta, your activity on the water cooler and other Facebook groups has been very positive. It's nice because I participate in that, and I see that. Well, but I see that you and several of the team are on there. And that can't be easy because on one hand, you're players of the game and you're lovers of the game, but yet you're still receiving the brunt of every critique. I know that must be difficult, but I appreciate that when I'm in there and someone's talking, I occasionally see you guys pop up or chime in. And to me, that's really nice.
We used to do a lot of support in those areas. And then we used to get into some battles in those areas, and then we used to remove ourselves from those areas, and then we would pop back in, and then we'd fight some more, and then we'd leave again. And we've dealt with that over the years, in lots of different ways. And I've consciously made a return to a couple of groups just because. Just from realizing how much I miss like knowing what's going on, and the only way I can know what's going on right now is online. That said, I'm an emotional kind of guy, ruled in that way much of the time, and so the difficulty of reading things and not knowing always, and then the same thing, unless people have heard me talk or met me or seen any of our videos don't necessarily realize how sarcastic I am and how much I joke around. I'm just a joker. That's it. I play games. I'm a little kid and just like to have fun, and that's it. So if I throw gifts out there and they're just messing around, or if I click like and all that kind of stuff, I'm just there for fun, and also to not to be Big Brother watching, but to be there to offer correct answers sometimes and direct everyone to the right places, and also sometimes just to go, hey, that's a great idea, because we do see some good ideas in there, and sometimes they pop up in the game, and sometimes it's recommended that people send them through the right channels, but other times we just take it and run. So thanks.
You know, yeah, Rob, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know we got big things coming up this afternoon where you are. I've got I'm not too close to my home. I've got BatmanKai is looking a bit sleepy here. With time zone. So I'm going to have to, he's kind of making some faces at me. Like he's like kind of nodding toward the door there. So, definitely this is not a one-off. We want to have you back on again.
Anytime.
Absolutely.
I would love it. And I'm sorry to BatmanKai because, and to Mom, who, you might have to answer to as well for keeping him out late. It's totally my fault. Blame it on me. I like to talk about Munzee. And so to the listeners out there, my apologies to the listeners. I hope you broke this up into bite-sized chunks and listened to it if you got tired of hearing what I had to say.
Yeah, no, we don't mind having an epic episode. This is great. Fantastic. Maybe we'll just wrap things up, Rob. So I know a lot of the listeners, most of them probably know where to find you, but where can they find you online, sir?
Oh my. Well, let's see. My my Instagram channel is a lot less about Munzee and a lot more about other stuff. We've got a beer being held up by PJ, by both of you. There you go. It's just past midday here, so I'm not currently enjoying.
Very reasonable.
But right, it's better that way. But I'm Mr. Vardeman, so just Mr. Vardeman on Instagram. I believe that I am CZO on Twitter, and so I have some other type stuff on there. I think, I don't know, C and then ZEE and then just the letter O, and then the easiest place to find me though is milling about in the Facebook groups, and also through suggestions, contact, or munzee.com/contact. Pretty much you hit me up at any of those spots, and I'll hear what you got to say.
Cool. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on episode number 10 of the Munzee Maniacs podcast. We really appreciate it. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's really been great to hang out with you guys, and then just to be able to kind of speak to our worldwide player base. So thank you for what you're doing. It does matter, and just keep going. Just like those new motivational cards that we put out.
Yep.
Keep going. I just put one of those for both of you, not at your location to cap, although I will try and find your location and do that. But I recommend for everybody else out there, send them a card. Thanks, guys.
Cards are always great. And I want to thank you. Like you said, this is our 10th episode, and this is Munzee's 10th year. So that's a fantastic, synergy? Do I sound like a yuppie? But it's good timing, and I want to just say to everyone, this is so cool. We didn't think we could get someone like Rob. He contacted us, and the mere fact that anyone is listening of import is really cool. So that's why I'm drinking. It is, by the way, it is in Japan. It is evening, so it's appropriate. I really appreciate it. He's got a life. He's busy. He's trying to do 1,000 things at once. So thank you for coming on and talking to us and talking to our audience. So, and I think BatmanKai is happiest of all. You can say
My
something,
pleasure.
Kai.
Yeah, Kai.
What do you want to say?
Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Perfect.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Hopefully, one of these days the world will let us all join together, play a game, and have a little drink too at some point in time. So thank you.
I'm in for that.
Well, it's Kevin here, and I just want to thank you all so much for listening to episode number 10 of the Munzee Maniacs podcast. We're so excited to get to 10. We're so excited that Rob took the time out of his extremely busy schedule to sit down with us for such an in-depth and amazing interview. So, Rob, I know you're listening. Thank you so much. And another big thanks to all of you amazing Munzee Maniacs who listen to the podcast, who share it with their Munzee friends, share it on their social media. This podcast is on pretty much every platform, and one thing that you can do to help raise us up is, of course, to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, write a review, all those kind of things. Writing a review actually helps push us forward within the Apple ecosystem, gets more ears on the podcast, and gets us more excited to create more episodes for you. So, of course, you can find us on social media at facebook.com/Munzee Maniacs Podcast. That is our Facebook page. Please go follow it and like it. Lots of stuff there about what we're doing in the Munzee world. Of course, we have the Munzee in Asia Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Munzee in Asia. That's growing. You can follow me, Kevin, on Twitter at Mad4Maple. I'm Mad for Maple. I'm a Canadian. And, of course, you can follow PJ on Instagram, his platform of choice, at Kansai_PJ. Oh, let's do that again. At Kansai_P_J. And, of course, that P is the PEE. So at Kansai_PEE_JAY. Guys and gals out there, thank you so much for listening. A special thanks to BatmanKai for coming on this episode and sitting through the whole interview. It was a long one. He did a fantastic job, and we rewarded him with some great Munzee play the next day. So, that's a lot of fun. Again, thank you so much, and we'll be coming back to you very soon with another episode of the Munzee Maniacs podcast. So everyone out there, Munzee on! Like there's some frustration some days when you go out and there's like 5 bouncers in a treehouse and you can't open the game. You're going from server to server to server on like 3 different VPN apps, and you're like,